like it. So I want to start off with a quote today, my topic and sermon and message and whatever it is about my lesson. And there's probably 8 other ways to describe what it is I'm about to do, but it's my personal entertainment for the week. Is asking for what you need. And the quote I want to start off with, and I want you to listen to it, because I'm going to use it, I hopefully will remember to say it again at the end of my talk, is I want you to ask yourself about your spiritual practice. Does my spiritual practice increase my concern and compassion for others? Or does it reinforce my indulgence of self? If the practice instills the former, it can be considered beneficial. If it's the latter, know this is to be nothing more than an exercise in prolonged suffering. So does your spiritual practice, the more that you become connected to our higher, true, real, authentic self, does it make you want to be more compassionate and more concerned for your brothers and sisters, or does it simply want you to turn more within and make sure all your own little needs are met? And make sure you've got everything right here. All your time, all your energy, all your abundance, it's right here. Because you see, when we become connected to our true and authentic self, we cannot stop ourselves from wanting to be giving. Of our love, of our kindness, of our gentleness, of our compassion, of our forgiveness, of our happiness, of our finances, whatever it might be. The more we become anchored in our true and authentic self, the more that we are here to be an expression for that good to flow through us. So I want you to ask yourself, how have you been this last week when it comes to practicing our true and authentic self? Has it been like this, or has it been like this? Because the more that we become connected to our true, powerful self, the more that we got to go, whoo, can't wait. Let me out the door, because a lot of people need loving. So today, it's been a little while since I brought props. When I first started the church, I always had props up here. So to help illustrate, because some of us I know are visual learners, some are very good at audio, and some are kinesthetic. And so hopefully we'll cover a little bit of every of those today, but today I'll help on the visuals. Because I want to give you the illustration of what this process that we call life is about. And the best way that I can exemplify it is a lot what I've spent the last 20-some years teaching about is the inner child. This is us. When we were all born. This is one of Libby's, I recognize it. One of Libby's sleepers, isn't it? Yeah. It had a tutu on it this morning, and Crystal looked at it and says, you know, I don't think you should take it looking like that. So she done changed it. So you've got to have it dressed appropriately for church. What size of Libby when she was born. This is all of us when we came out of the womb into this world for the first time. And when you came out, you were as deeply ingrained in every one of these qualities and the 500 more that we could put on the screen that would fall into this alignment. That was you. When you came from wherever it is that we come from to get into our mother's womb, and the 9 months or so that you gestated in there, and then when you came into this world, you were anchored in this. Powerfully so. True? Yes. So you all got it. Inner child, wonder child, divine child, authentic, real, true self. That's who we all are. Okay, you all good with that? Easy to understand. All right. So here we go. Then we get into life. But what happens from the moment that we come into this world? Put the other screen up for a moment. How much of this was your parents? So whatever the energy that we're born into, if it was some of that or a lot of that, what begins to happen is we begin to disconnect from our true, real, and authentic self. And that energy, if that's what we were born into, is dysfunction. And I love Bradshaw's definition that he quotes in his book Homecoming around being born into a dysfunctional family. It's kind of like showing up at the middle of a movie and not knowing what the plot is. How many of us showed up in our family and we had no idea what the plot was? You still don't. 50 years later, you still don't have the plot that your family's living from. You don't have the script down. So we come in, and what starts to happen is that energy starts to wear on our pureness. And why it starts to wear on it is because staying pure, listen to this, staying pure in that environment is the most difficult thing an infant can possibly do. And I'd be willing to bet every one of you did that, tried your best. But that environment starts wearing on you. And it wears on you for about the first 2 years. And in about the first 2 years, one of the most traumatic moments of our life begin to unfold. And that is the separation of ourself, or the ripping from our true self to creating a new, or guess what? A false self. And why we have to create a false self is because hanging out in a true, innocent, unconditionally loving, joyful, happy being is too painful. So what we have to do is develop a false self. Or this one. So we develop, and about the time that that happens is about the 2. And we have learned to coin that phrase as the what? Terrible. That's right. The terrible 2s. And so what happens is we begin to develop a false personality that is more comfortable or more adaptable to that environment. So we begin to develop this environment over here, this false self, and at first it doesn't feel quite right. But because our world is so chaotic at times, or unhappy, or dysfunctional, or unpleasant to be in, meaning this little infant's 2-year-old's needs is not being met. It's not being held regularly. It's not being cherished. It's not being cursed. It's not being cuddled. It's not being held. It's not being treasured. And so, in order to survive in this world, these other personalities have to begin to develop. And this is the developing of the false self. And this false self is really caused to be developed when it realizes that who it is as its true, authentic, real self is not a valuable asset to the rest of the family. And when this little baby's needs as a 2-year-old stop being met, it begins to take on other personalities, hoping that it can meet the other's needs. And for me, when this began to happen, was, I don't know, somewhere around 2, 3, 4 for me. I had a dad that was very rageful, full of rage, and very angry. And so what my mother taught my brother, my sister, and myself is that my dad's needs were way above mine. So mine as a little 2, 3-year-old of being loved, held, cuddled, praised, spent time with, taught, hung out with, became not very important. What became important was making sure that we kept the environment as calm as we possibly could so that Dad wouldn't be angry, rageful, or violent. So what that taught us is Dad's needs were way more important than our needs of being loved, held, spent time with, played with. So what that taught me then early on, and what got anchored into me, was others' needs are more important than mine. And I lost total connection to what my needs were. It was all about someone else out there. So this personality, this false self, got developed even more. And the more that it gets developed, the bigger the gap begins to grow between the 2. When this gap begins to spread out, that's when we begin to lose connection to who and what we are. And if you can get this next part, who we hang out with 98% of the time or more is people that are not connected to their true, real, and authentic self. They have moments. Everybody has a moment. I get over here for how long? 2 minutes? Really pure. And then I got to jump back over here. And what happens is this becomes so uncomfortable that we got to learn ways to not turn inwardly, but to occupy it externally.